of Engineering, as the eminent speaker for this session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for nice introduction. So thank you all and good afternoon to all of you. Today I am going to discuss biomedical signal analysis and classification using the Fourier theory and especially its name has been termed as Fourier decomposition method with machine learning and deep learning, and both machine learning and deep learning are the part of the artificial intelligence. So let me start with the introduction of the AI in 5G, and here we are going to define few things, few simple things, of course. So artificial intelligence is any technique that enables machines to mimic human intelligence. Human intelligence is also termed as the natural intelligence. Just so AI is a computer system trained to perceive its environment, make decisions, and take appropriate actions or optimal actions. Machine learning, it is sometimes defined in terms of the statistical methods that enables machines to learn from the data without explicit programming. And deep learning are the neural networks with many layers that learns representation and tasks directly from the data. And of course, deep learning is a subset of machine learning, and AI is a superset of both machine learning and deep learning. So let me give some very basic things about the machine learning and deep learning. Let me compare these two things. So machine learning, there are few plus points and few minus points. So in case of machine learning, plus point is good result with small data set. Whereas in the deep learning, this is a negative point because this requires large amount of data to train the deep learning network. Another plus point in the machine learning is quick to train a model. Whereas in the case of deep learning, it is computationally intensive and takes a lot of time. Now, there are some negative points in the machine learning as well, because in the case of machine learning, generally we need to try different features and classifiers to achieve best results. And whereas in the deep learning, this is a plus point because features are directly learned from the data itself and classifiers are automatically selected. Another minus point in the case of machine learning is accuracy is limited. There is a plateaus in the accuracy, that means accuracy is limited. Whereas in the case of deep learning, accuracy is unlimited, and in many applications we are getting 100% accuracy. So this is a little bit about the machine learning, deep learning, and artificial intelligence. Now let us see what is 5G and what is the role of 5G and how it is evolving over the period of time. So 1G analog telecommunication was introduced in 1979, and that was the era of the telephone, analog telecommunications. Then in 1991, 2G was introduced, and this was having only the text messaging capability. In 1998, 3G mobile came, where we are having the mobile and wireless internet connections. In 2008, 4G mobile was launched, and it has many other facilities as compared to 3G, like cloud, IP, and truly mobile broadband. And in 2019, 5G was launched, which is having unlimited data capacity. That means data speed is very high. So in terms of the data speeds, of course, in the case of 2G, which was launched in 1991, it was having zero point 0.1 megabytes per second. And 3G speed in the case of 3G was around 0.1 to 8 megabytes per second. Now, as we are moving from 2G to 5G, speed is increasing, services are increasing. In case of 4G, we are having maximum speed of 15 MB megabytes per second. Whereas in the case of 5G, it is expected that the speed would be 1 to 10 gigabytes per second. So as the technology is advancing, we are increasing the bandwidth. That's why in the case of 5G, we are operating in the gigahertz, 3 to 5 gigahertz, yeah, maybe more than that. Whereas in the case of 2G and 2.5G, we were operating in 900 megahertz and 1800 megahertz. Now there are some areas where we can have the improvement with the help of artificial intelligence or machine learning and deep learning. So there are many research areas which can be used to improve the 5G, like full duplex channels, channel estimation, power saving at the receiver side especially, MIMO detection, device nonlinearity. That means with the help of machine learning and deep learning, we can use the nonlinearity of the devices to get the optimal performance, positioning, TCP optimization, beam management and optimization, vehicular communications, contextual awareness, environmental sensing, security, radio resource allocation, and spectrum sensing. So these are the broad areas where AI can be used to improve the 5G technologies. So this was the little bit introduction on the AI and 5G. Now there are various applications of AI and 5G. For example, self-driving autonomous vehicles, automating or managing public transportation, time-critical industry automations, remote healthcares, IoT and AI revolutions, AI and 5G robotics, blockchain, etc. So there are endless applications. So these are some main applications with the help of AI and 5G which we can achieve. Now, I am going to give some representation theory for the Fourier representation and Fourier theory, Fourier transform, various kind of Fourier representations. So like linear algebra is an essential foundation for machine learning, similarly Fourier representation is the most important mathematical foundation for modeling analysis of physical phenomena, engineering system and signals in numerous applications. Even 2G, 3G, 4G and 5G cannot be achieved without the Fourier theory, because even the concept of spectrum itself is coming from the Fourier theory. So we are going to discuss all representations of the Fourier theory, and then we will see how it can be used for the biomedical signal processing with the help of machine learning and deep learning. Fourier theory has been used to obtain solution of problems in almost all fields of mathematics, science, engineering and technologies. It is the fundamental of signal processing, image processing, analysis, information extraction and interpretations in various applications. And of course it is named in honor of Joseph Fourier, who lived in 1768 to 1830 in France, Grenoble. And first announcement of the great Fourier theory in terms of the Fourier series was made by the Fourier himself in 1807. Hilbert transform first appeared in Hilbert's 1905 work on the problem Riemann posed concerning the analytic signals, now known as Riemann-Hilbert problems. So while Hilbert was trying to solve the Riemann problems in 1905, Hilbert transform came and developed at that time. Hilbert transform is a plus minus pi by 2 radian phase shifter, and repeated n times Hilbert transform provides plus minus n pi by 2 radian phase shift. Phase transform, which is recently proposed in 2018 and published in 2020, is a plus minus alpha radian phase shifter, where alpha belongs to real number, and of course when alpha is pi by 2, it becomes the Hilbert transform. So it is a true generalization of the Hilbert transform. Time domain kernel of the phase transform and its various properties are derived in 2018. However, the desired phase shiftings were achieved in the frequency domain for many decades, but there was no proper time domain description of the phase transform. Some new developments in the Fourier theory. Fourier decomposition method for nonlinear and non-stationary time series analysis, published in 2017 in the Proceedings of the Royal Society, London. And this journal is one of the oldest journal in this world. It was started in 16th century. Fourier quadrature transforms proposed in 2018, which are alternative to the Hilbert transform, and they are also published in the Royal Society London, and the name of journal is Royal Society Open Science. Phase transform as a e-print and or preprint is available since 2018 at the archive, and it is very recently published in 2020 in the Digital Signal Processing Elsewhere journal. So these are the few new developments in the Fourier theory, and we are going to cover all these things in detail. So before going into the Fourier decomposition method, how it is working and how it can be used for the various kind of biomedical signal processing, analysis and classification, I am going to give some basic definitions, and then we will develop the Fourier decomposition method and use for the classification and analysis of the biomedical signals. So let me start from the very basic definitions. Of course, these definitions are known to most of the participants, but just this is a refreshment, and just I'm going to show that how these simple things can be used to develop the advanced theory. So dot product of two vectors u and v, which belongs to the Rn, is defined as simply u dot v, and this is of course well known, and we studied all these things even in the 11th and 12th class, 11th and 12th standard. So even the school childs knowing what is the dot product. So it is given by this representation 1, and where u is this one is the length of the vector u, and this is the length of the vector v, and theta is the angle between vector u and v. And of course, if two vectors u and v are orthogonal, then dot product is 0. And inner product is a generalization of the dot product. Dot product is the same as the inner product on a finite dimensional Euclidean space. Then what is the Euclidean space? Euclidean vector space is a finite dimensional inner product space over the real number. That means when we are talking about the Euclidean space, generally we are working in the real numbers and finite dimensional real vectors, and most of the time we are working in the real vectors when we are working in the Euclidean space. Otherwise, of course, there is a concept of the complex vectors as well, and they are being used in many applications. So how the inner product is defined? Inner product, this is given by this symbol, left angle and right angle, u comma v. So this is the symbol for defining the inner product in terms of the mathematics, and it is defined in this way. Take the complex conjugate of the second one, multiply with first one, point by point multiplication, element by element multiplication, and then summation. And where of course this bar or overline is a complex conjugate operation on the v. And of course, when two vectors are orthogonal, then their inner product is 0. Inner product is also defined for the functions. So if we are having two functions xt and yt, then inner product is defined, and we should take the complex conjugate of the second one, multiply with first one, and integrate over the entire region, entire time support. And for the orthogonal functions, of course, inner product is 0. Then length or norm, in mathematics generally we are calling length or norm, and it is defined as the under root of the inner product of the vector with itself. And square of the norm in signal processing is defined as the energy of the signal, and of course this energy is not the same energy which we are using in the physics, and we can think of this is some sort of energy which is being dissipated across the 1 ohm resistance. So of course convolution is a well-known operation, and it is widely used for all kind of signal processing and especially for the filtering. So it is defined by this expression 5, where star denotes convolution operation, and convolution of xn with hn is same as convolution of hn with xn. Similarly, convolution can be defined in the continuous time domain by the expression 6, and xt convolution with ht is same as ht convolution with xt. And this is the signum function. This is very well known function which is defined 1 when t greater than 0, it is 0 when t equal to 0, and minus 1 when t less than 0. This is the unit step functions. There are generally two definitions of the unit step function. This definition is widely used, and it is 1 when t greater than equal to 0, and this is 0 when t less than 0. But there are some applications where ut is defined in this way as well, especially when we are computing the Fourier transform of the unit step function. And the idea behind defining unit step half at t equal to 0 is because before 0 it is 0 and after 0 it is 1, so average value of 0 and 1 is half. Even we can define any value between 0 to 1 rather than half if that required by our application. And because of this continuity, we are having liberty to define any value of ut at t equal to 0. Now, Dirac delta function, and strictly speaking, it is not a function, it is a distribution, because no function can satisfy the property of the Dirac delta function. So it is one of the very fascinating and mathematically useful function. So it is defined at delta t equal to 0 when t not equal to 0, and integration over the entire period is 1. Or we can say that integration of delta function is 1 provided epsilon is greater than 0. Similarly, if we define in this way, delta t minus t naught and integrating over the range a and b, so of course this will be 1 when t naught is between a and b, and if t naught is not between a and b, then this will be 0. Informally, we can also define the delta function in this way. I am calling it informally because here we are using the symbol infinite at t equal to 0. And infinite is not part of the real line. It is a part of the extended real line, and infinity is not a number. It is just some sort of idea. Or we can say that in real line, this extended real line, this is a last number in terms of the plus infinity, highest number or largest number, and minus infinity is the lowest number. And integration of delta t is 1, of course. So these are the few basic things. So I'm going to skip all these things because these are things are known most of the time. Now let me define the Fourier representation. So first I'm going to define what is the Fourier series. Fourier series is defined for the periodic signal, and periodic signal here it is represented as x tilde t. So x tilde t equal to x tilde t plus capital T for all t. And if x tilde t is a periodic signal and satisfy the Dirichlet conditions. So Dirichlet conditions means over the one period, a finite number of discontinuities, finite number of extrema. Extrema means local maxima and local minima, and the signal is absolutely integrable. Then we can define the Fourier series representation of signal x tilde t, and it is defined in terms of the inner product. So that's why we have defined the inner product. So x tilde t is the inner product of Fourier coefficients with exponential minus j k omega naught t. And when we are going to define the inner product, then we have to take the complex conjugate of the second one, multiply with first one, and sum over the entire value of the k, where omega naught is nothing but 2 pi by t. It is called the fundamental frequency. Then from this expression, we have to compute the Fourier coefficients, which can be again defined in terms of the inner product. Take the original signal, take the inner product with the complex exponential exp j k omega naught t, and integrate over the one period. So there is a multiplication factor of 1 by t as well in the inner product. So it is 1 by 2 multiplication factor, and then this is the inner product of this one. Take the complex conjugate of the second vector, multiply with first one, and integrate over the one period. Note that in the Fourier series representation, signal is periodic, time is continuous, and frequency, which is also called the spectrum, is discrete. And the spectrum is discrete because k k can take only the discrete values. K is running from minus infinity to plus infinity. Then Fourier transform, when this period of the periodic signals becomes infinite, then Fourier series will become the Fourier transform, and Fourier transform of function xt is defined in terms of the inner product, where xf is the Fourier transform of xt, and xf is defined as inner product of xt with complex exponential e to the power j2 pi ft, taken the complex conjugate of the second one multiplied by this one, and Fourier transform pairs are written in this way: xt and then forward arrow and reverse arrow. Forward arrow means we are taking the Fourier transform, and reverse arrow means we are computing the inverse Fourier transform. Then of course inverse Fourier transform is defined in the inverse in this way. That means once we have the Fourier transform of the signal, we do all the analysis in the Fourier domain, and then come back to the original time domain and recover the original signal, and this is called the inverse Fourier transform. This is also defined in terms of the inner product. So Fourier transform of the signal with inner product exp minus j2 pi ft. Now these two representation can also be written in terms of the frequency omega equal to 2 pi f, which is radian per second, and of course f is the frequency in hertz. So x omega can be written as inner product of xt with complex exponential e to the power j omega t, and defined in this way. Then here we can see that when we are going to define the inverse Fourier transform, we have to use the multiplication factor of 1 upon 2 pi when we are defining the inverse Fourier transform in terms of the omega. Finally, we can see that Fourier transform and inverse Fourier transform can also be defined in this way, and these definitions are generally being used by physicists and mathematicians. And generally, this definition, which is defined in equation number 18 and 19, or 20 and 21, generally we are using in terms of the electronics engineer, electrical engineer. So these representations are famous in the engineering. However, representation 22 and 23 are famous for the physicist and mathematician. Let us see the beauty of this representation. Here you can see that there is a multiplication factor of 1 upon under root 2 pi in the forward Fourier transform expression as well as in the inverse Fourier transform. So this is the inverse Fourier transform expression, and this is the forward Fourier transform expression. And these two representations are very symmetrical. That's why they are famous in mathematical representation and in the physical applications. Now we can note that in the Fourier transform, signal is aperiodic generally. Time is continuous and frequency is also continuous. And why we are calling it generally, not always? Because Fourier transform of periodic signal like sine wave, cosine wave, impulse, strain are defined through the help of or with the help of delta function only. Otherwise, Fourier transform of periodic signal does not exist if we are not going to include delta in our definition. So now let us define the phase transform. What is the phase transform? So as name suggests, phase transform of a signal is just going to change the phase of the signal. It is not going to change the frequency component and energy of that signal. So if xt is a delta function, delta Dirac function, then its Fourier transform is 1, and hence using the inverse Fourier representation we can obtain this expression, and this is nothing but the delta function. With the help of Euler identity, this expression can be written in terms of this one, where delta t is 1 upon 2 pi and integration over the entire frequency cos omega t, and this can be written as further this one because cos omega t is an even function, and imaginary part of this expression becomes 0 because that is nothing but sine omega t, and sine omega t is an odd function. So of course delta t can now be written in this way: 1 upon pi 0 to infinite cos omega t d omega. Now this is the key point, and this is known. This expression is known for more than century. But recently we observed that with the help of this expression, we can define the new transform, which is nothing but phase transform. So of course, phase transform of delta function is defined in this way. That means simply in place of omega t, we are writing omega t minus alpha. So now this is the delta function shifted by the alpha radians. And of course, when we put alpha equal to 0, that it is the original delta function. So this is the starting point of defining the phase transform. Now let us see. Of course, we can use this formula cos A minus cos B, and we can write expression 26 in this way by using this formula cos A minus B, which is cos A cos B plus sin A sin B. Now we can notice here that this expression can be written in this way because cos alpha is independent of omega. So even it can be function of time, we can take it outside. So first term will become cos alpha delta t, and second term will become sin alpha ht, where ht is the Hilbert transform kernel, and this kernel was defined in 1905 by the Hilbert himself. So of course, in terms of the integral equation, Hilbert transform kernel can be written in this way: ht equal to 1 upon pi 0 to infinite sin omega t d omega. Then how to solve this integration? So we have to directly, we cannot solve this integration because the value of the sine theta and cos theta when theta tends to infinite is not defined. So of course, integration of sin omega t is well known, but when we are going to put the upper limit, it will not be defined. So we have to search for some workaround and solve this integral equation. So of course, to solve that, we are going to multiply it by e to the power minus sigma omega, where sigma is greater than 0, and simply solution of this integral equation is this one, and this is very similar to the Laplace transform. And of course, from here we can see that when sigma tends to 0, this will become 0 when t equal to 0, and this will become 1 upon pi t when t not equal to 0. Simply here, if I put t equal to 0, then sine this will become 0 and integration will become 0, so ht will be 0. So now this is consistent, and 1 upon pi t is the well-known Hilbert kernel, which is singular at the origin. That means in 1 upon pi t, when we put t equal to 0, this will become infinite, and this is going to have the singularity, and this has been there in the literature for more than 1 century. However, from here we have easily proved that it is not having any pole or any singularity at 0. However, it is having a 0 at 0, and it is 1 upon pi t when t not equal to 0. Then of course we can define the Fourier transform of the Hilbert transform kernel, which is nothing but minus j signum f, and where ht is the Hilbert kernel, which is 0 at t equal to 0 and 1 upon pi t and when t not equal to 0. And this Fourier representation can be written in this way. This is just rewriting this same expression 32 in 33. So here we can see that it is e to the power minus j pi by 2 when f greater than 0 and 0 when f equal to 0, and when frequencies are less than 0, then it is e to the power j pi by 2. And that's why here we can see that there is a phase of minus pi by 2 and here is a phase of plus pi by 2. That's why Hilbert transform provides minus pi by 2 and plus pi by 2 phase shifts to the positive and negative frequencies respectively. So of course, Hilbert transform in terms of the integral equation is defined in this way. So if xt is the signal, and if we are interested in finding out the Hilbert transform of this, which is denoted at x cap t, So xt and then convolution with the kernel ht, where ht is the Hilbert transform kernel, and it can be written in this way. With the help of Hilbert transform, we can define the analytic signal representation, and analytic signal representation is going to have only positive frequencies and all negative frequencies would be killed. So analytic signal representation or analytic signal xt equal to zt equal to original signal, where xt is the real valued signal, plus j times x cap t, where x cap t is the Hilbert transform of the xt. And in terms of the Fourier theory, with the help of this, we can write in terms of the Fourier theory, it is 1 upon pi 0 to infinity x omega exp j omega t d omega. And from here we can easily see that analytic signal representation is going to capture only positive frequencies of the signal xt, and all negative frequencies would be 0. And of course, this is complex, zt is a complex valued signal, so it can be written in terms of the polar representation, where zt is at exp j phi t, where at is the envelope and phi t is the phase of the xt. That is how we define the envelope of the signal and phase of the signal with the help of analytic signal representation. And in analytic signal representation, we can see that we need the Hilbert transform. So now let us define the phase transform in terms of the convolution and what is the kernel of the phase transform. So we have seen that. Let us denote phase transform of signal xt as xt comma alpha, and h alpha is the phase transform operator which is operating on xt, and it is mathematically defined as original signal xt and convolution with delta t comma alpha. So when we convolve xt with the kernel of the phase transform, we are going to obtain this one, cos alpha xt plus sin alpha x cap t, where x cap t is the Hilbert transform of the xt. And from this expression, we can easily see that when alpha equal to pi by 2, so this term will become 0 and this will be 1, and hence phase transform will become the Hilbert transform. In the discrete time domain, we can define the kernel of the phase transform, which is defined in this way, cos alpha delta n plus sin alpha hn, where delta n is the discrete impulse, discrete counterpart of the Dirac delta function, where delta n equal to 1 when n equal to 0, and it is 0 otherwise, and hn is the Hilbert kernel, which is defined by 1 minus cos pi n upon pi n. So now let us see few examples where we can compute the phase transform. So phase transform of 1 is cos alpha, and if we put alpha equal to 0, then phase transform of 1 is when there is no phase transform, alpha equal to 0, so this will be the same. When alpha is equal to 90, it will become the Hilbert transform and this will become 0. Similarly, phase transform of cos omega t is nothing but cos omega t minus alpha Hilbert, and when we put alpha equal to pi by 2, it will become the Hilbert transform, and this term will become the sin omega t. Similarly, phase transform of sin omega t is nothing but sin omega t minus alpha, and omega cannot be equal to 0, because when omega is 0, this will become 0, and the phase transform of 0 is always 0. Similarly, phase transform, Hilbert transform of 0 is also 0. Similarly, delta t, if there is a function, Dirac delta function, and if we take the phase transform of this, so it will be cos alpha delta t plus sin alpha delta t minus pi by 2. So this is the kernel of the phase transform. Similarly, there are few other functions we can define the phase transform, and when we are going to put alpha equal to pi by 2, this phase transform will become the Hilbert transform. Now let us see what is the Fourier representation of the phase transform. So Fourier representation of the phase transform is written in this way: delta f comma alpha, which is e to the power minus j alpha when f greater than 0, and for f frequency equal to 0 it is cos alpha, and when frequencies are less than 0, negative frequencies, it is e to the power j alpha. And thus we can see that for positive frequencies there is a minus alpha phase shift, and for negative frequency there is a plus alpha phase shift to the given signal. Now let us see one example where we can use the phase transform. Phase shift is extensively being used in the radar applications where we are having the array of antennas, and we are interested in manipulating the signal output of the each antennas and get the combined signal so that we can have the better SNR. This is the one example where we have taken the Gaussian function and we are going to obtain the phase transform of this. So this is the phase transform in the range of 0 to pi, and step is pi by 2. That means the first blue signal is the Gaussian function and it is the original signal, and if we shift it by pi by 20, then we will get this one, and we can keep on increasing in the step of pi by 20, and this corresponds to the Hilbert transform, phase shift of pi by 2. And the last one, this corresponds to the phase shift of 180 degree, that is pi. So of course this is just the multiplied by the minus 1 in the original signal, and we will obtain the phase shift of pi degree. Similarly, we can go from pi to 2 pi and keep on increasing the phase shift by in the step of pi by 20, and this signal corresponding to the arrow, this is 270, and this is the original signal, which is phase shift of 2 pi. Now if we combine these two figures, then we can have very nice representation of this kind, and this is the phase shift of the Gaussian function in 0 to 2 pi in step of pi by 20, for example. Otherwise we can take any real number as a step size. So we can see that same thing, by just changing the phase of the signal we can have different shape of the signal. However, their energy and frequency components are same, only phase is changing. So now let us see what is the discrete time Fourier transform. So far we have covered Fourier series, Fourier transform, and phase transform. Now we are going into the discrete time Fourier transform. So by discretization or sampling of the signal xt, we can obtain the discrete signal xn. And discrete time Fourier transform can be defined by this expression, where it is written in terms of the, again, inner product. So x capital omega is the Fourier transform, a discrete time Fourier transform, or a DTFT of xn, and it is written xn. We can take the inner product of xn with exponential j omega n, where capital omega is now discrete frequency, and of course then inner product is defined in this way. We are going to take the complex conjugate of the second component, multiply with first one, and we are going to sum over the entire value of the n. Then we are going to do the analysis in the Fourier domain, and finally we need to recover the signal. So we have to obtain the inverse DTFT, inverse discrete time Fourier transform, by this expression. There is a multiplication factor of 1 upon 2 pi, and then inner product of x omega and exponential e to the power minus j omega n. In these two expressions we can see that complex exponential here and here is same, but this is the complex conjugate of this one. And then we define the inner product of these two. So in case of discrete time Fourier transform, frequency omega is still continuous, so we have to take the integration, and since n is discrete, so we have to take the summation. So this is defined in this way, and we can note that in case of the DTFT, signal is aperiodic. Aperiodic means non-periodic. Time is discrete. However, frequency is still continuous, and spectrum is also periodic, because x omega is same as x omega plus 2 pi, and 2 pi is the period of the discrete time Fourier transform. So still we cannot implement this thing in the computer, because omega is a real number and it is continuous, and between any two real number there are infinite real numbers, and to deal with the infinite real numbers we need infinite computing power, infinite memory, which is not possible in any processor. So of course, now let us notice few things. Periodicity in the time domain causes discreteness in the frequency domain, as we have observed in the Fourier series. Discreteness in the time domain causes periodicity in the frequency domain, as we have seen in the discrete time Fourier transform. Now, by discretization or sampling of the DTFT signal x omega, we can obtain discrete Fourier transform xk. Discretization in the time domain corresponds periodicity in the frequency domain, as we have seen in the DTFT. Now there is a duality principle which is playing a role, and therefore discretization in the frequency domain corresponds to periodicity in the time domain, and this will be the final representation DFT, and DFT is nothing but one period of the discrete Fourier series. So discrete Fourier transform of a signal xn of length n can be defined in this way. There is a multiplication factor of 1 upon n, and then xn is being we are going to take the inner product of xn with complex exponential, discrete complex exponential now, e to the power j 2 pi kn upon n, and which can be written by this expression where k is running from 0 to n minus 1. The signal and DFT pairs are denoted by xn, this way xn, then Fourier transform and inverse Fourier transform, capital Xk the Fourier transform, the DFT discrete Fourier transform of the xn. We are going to do the analysis, noise separations, fast convolution in the Fourier domain, and then we have to obtain the original signal by the inverse DFT. So inverse DFT is defined in this way. It is the inner product of xk with same complex exponential, but we have to take the complex conjugate of that, and it is defined in this way. Now, rather than having this multiplication factor in the forward discrete Fourier transform, we can have this multiplication factor here, and we can make multiplication factor 1 here. So this is what these two representations are there. This multiplication factor has moved here rather than here. So this is mathematically also valid, and in the MATLAB this is what implemented. And one thing we can notice that in the case of discrete Fourier transform, signal is periodic and discrete in both time and frequency domain. That means xn is same as xn plus capital N, where capital N is the period of the time domain signal, and xk is equal to xk plus capital N, where capital N is again a period of the frequency domain signal xk. So now signal is discrete in time domain as well as in the frequency domain. Signal is periodic in time domain as well as in the frequency domain. And this is what actually implemented in the any processor. It is any language, C, C++, MATLAB, Python.
లీవ్ పెడితే పరిస్థితి ఏమంటారు మరి ఇప్పుడు సడన్ గా లీవ్ పెడితే?
And now this can also be defined in this way, where we can have the multiplication factor of 1 upon under root in the forward DFT and inverse DFT. So this is also mathematically valid, and this is also being used in many applications. So what is the problem in the Fourier transform, and why we need any other transform like short time Fourier transform, wavelet transform, etc. So there is no frequency information in the time domain, and main disadvantage of the Fourier transform is that time information is lost in the frequency domain. That means if we are having a signal xt, and if we take the Fourier transform of that, we will obtain xf, and then time information is lost in the Fourier domain. And there are many applications where we need time information as well as frequency information. So to eliminate this problem, short time Fourier transform came, and it is defined as the Fourier transform of the Binot signal. That means if xt is a signal and gt is a window, and gt minus tau is the shifting of the window for various value of the tau. So this is now windowed signal, and we can take the Fourier transform of the windowed signal, and that is what short time Fourier transform. Mathematically, it can be defined as inner product of the windowed signal by exp complex exponential exp j omega t, and mathematically it is defined in this way. And most commonly used window is the hand window or Gaussian window centered about the origin. So this is the hand window or Gaussian window centered around the origin, and gt minus tau is the shifting of the window to the left side and right side depending upon whether the value of t is positive and negative respectively. Then how to obtain the inverse STFT, inverse short time Fourier transform? So simply it is defined as the inner product of the short time Fourier transform with complex conjugate of the complex exponential which was used in the forward STFT, and it can be defined in this way. And if we evaluate this expression at tau t equal to tau, and we make sure that g naught is not equal to 0, then original signal can be recovered by this expression. Now, what are the problem with the STFT and why we need the Wavelet transform? So there are some issues with STFT, like time frequency representation depends on the type of chosen window function. Larger window size provides poor time resolution and good frequency resolution. However, smaller window provides good time resolution but poor frequency resolution. So there is an uncertainty principle, and because of that, these are the issues which are present in the short time Fourier transform. So to resolve these issues, Wavelet transform was defined. So continuous Wavelet transform of a signal xt, where it is assumed that xt belongs to L square R. That means it is an energy signal. We can square it and integrate it, and that should be finite. So CWT, continuous Wavelet transform of signal xt, is defined by the inner product of xt with psi s comma tau t, and where of course we have to take the complex conjugate of this one and multiply with this and integrate over the entire time period. This is how the continuous Wavelet transform is defined. Of course, with the help of the Parseval's relation, we can write the same expression by the expression 58, and this is written in terms of the Fourier domain, where x omega is the Fourier transform of xt, and psi s omega is the Fourier transform of this one. And here we can see that there are two parameters, scaling and translation parameter. Scaling parameter s belongs to real line, and of course s cannot be 0. And translation parameter tau belongs to real line, and even it can be 0. And of course psi s tau t is the family of daughter wavelets, where original wavelet belongs to energy signal, and it is called a mother wavelet, which has finite energy and zero mean. That means any signal which has finite energy and zero mean can be a wavelet, provided wavelets satisfy the admissibility condition which is necessary for the reconstruction of the original signal. If this condition is not being satisfied, which is also called the admissibility condition, then we cannot recover the original signal from the Wavelet transform. So when admissibility condition, that means this integration is less than infinite, which means it is finite, then with the help of expression 6t, we can have the, and we can recover the original signal xt. However, there are some issues with the continuous Wavelet transform as well, like time frequency representation depends on the type of wavelet used. At low frequency, frequency resolution is good but time resolution is poor. At high frequency, time resolution is good but frequency resolution is poor. So these are the some problems which exist in the continuous wavelet transform. So to overcome these problems, there are many other methods which I'm going to discuss, and Fourier decomposition method is one of those solution. So in the time domain, there is no frequency information, and in the frequency domain there is no time information, and these are two classical mutually exclusive representation of the signal. And sometimes we are interested in the time frequency distribution of the signal, as we have seen in the case of short time Fourier transform and wavelet transform. Now the objective is to decompose the signal so that we can have the time varying frequency and time varying amplitude. So this is some sort of amplitude modulation and frequency modulation type of the representation, and where with the help of Hilbert transform and the differentiation of the phase we can obtain the time frequency representation. So necessary condition for a set of basis vectors to represent nonlinear and non-stationary signals are, that means if basis functions are going to satisfy the condition of completeness, orthogonality, locality, and adaptiveness, then we can obtain better time frequency resolution. So main objective of the EMD and FDM is to represent a signal by this representation, where xt is decomposed in m components, and nt is any noise component or maybe the trend. For example, in the case of ECG, it may be the power line interference and baseline wonder. So noise, nt is representing the noise, and xm are the components which have been obtained by decomposing the signal xt. Now by removing this one and taking the Hilbert transform of this one, we can obtain the analytic signal representation, which can be written in this way. Then of course, real part of this is the original signal, and imaginary part of this is the Hilbert transform of the real part. And instantaneous frequency is defined as the differentiation of the instantaneous phase, and this must be greater than equal to 0 for all t, because in physics frequency is defined as number of vibrations per second or number of cycles per second, and this is not going to make any sense when this instantaneous frequency becomes negative. So of course now we are going to have time frequency as a function of time and amplitude square as a function of time, and when we are going to plot this for each time and all value of m, we can obtain the time frequency energy representation or time frequency representation, TFR or TFD, time frequency distribution. And there are many methods such as empirical mode decomposition, variational mode decomposition, empirical wavelet decomposition, eigenvalue decomposition, to obtain this kind of time frequency representation. EMD proposed in 1998 by NASA is the most popular method for time frequency analysis, and the popularity of this method can be estimated by the number of citations the EMD has obtained. So far it has got more than 20,000 citations. But there are some problems in the literature, and like noise in the EMD, like mode mixing, the trend uncertainty, and effect artifacts, non-orthogonality of the intrinsic mode functions, because EMD is going to take the signal and decompose that signal in terms of the intrinsic mode functions. And there was a perception in the literature for many decades that Fourier methods cannot be used for the non-linear and non-stationary data analysis. Even though the objective of the EMD is to obtain the generalized Fourier representation where amplitude is varying with time, frequency is varying with time, and it is claimed that Fourier method cannot be used to obtain a generalized Fourier expansion. And reason to support these claims are linearity of the Fourier theory, the stationarity and periodicity of the Fourier basis, and of course Fourier basis are sine and cosine functions. So in 2017, IIT Delhi proposed the FDM, Fourier decomposition method, and it is an idea which is using the zero phase filtering approach for the signal decomposition. A signal decomposition into set of orthogonal vectors preserves energy, and this is happening because of the well-known Pythagorean or Parseval's theorem, because when the vectors are orthogonal, their energy is preserved. Like in the case of Pythagoras theorem, we know that, and when we are going to describe the Pythagoras theorem in the higher dimensions, that is called the multidimensional Pythagoras theorem or Parseval's theorem. A signal can also be decomposed into set of linearly independent, non-orthogonal yet energy-preserving vectors. Here the orthogonality of the vector is not required, and they can preserve the energy in the decomposition. So this is some sort of generalization of the Parseval's theorem and Pythagoras theorem for the non-orthogonal vectors, where energy will be preserved although they are not orthogonal to each other. That means pairwise orthogonality of vector is sufficient but not necessary condition to preserve the energy. And of course, energy is defined as square of the norm, and the norm, square of the norm, generally we are calling it norm in mathematics, and otherwise we are calling it energy, and square of the norm is energy. So sufficient and necessary condition to preserve energy in the decomposition is to make the sum of the cross terms zero. That means if there is a signal x, and if we are going to decompose x into the capital N components such that summation of xn is x, and now if we compute square of the norm of the summation of this, then of course we are going to get the energy components of the individual components, and there will be n square minus n cross terms. So in the case of Pythagoras theorem and Parseval's theorem, these inner products are zero. However, we are just saying that rather than setting the individual term zero, summation of this should be zero. That means these are the cross term, and sum of the cross term must be zero. So pairwise orthogonality is not required. Just we need to make sure that sum of all these terms are zero. Now let us see one simple example where we can use and obtain non-orthogonal vectors, although they are linearly independent and they still preserve the energy. So there are two conditions. Let x is decomposed in x1 to xn such that ith component is perpendicular to xl, summation xl, where l is I plus 1 to n, and second condition is x is decomposed in terms of xi. So if these two conditions are meeting, then of course energy can be preserved even though vector x1, x2 and xn are not orthogonal. And to do this we need at least 3 dimensions. In 2 dimensions it is not going to work for the real vectors, but if we are going to visualize in 2 dimensions, then we have to use the complex vector, and for the real vectors we have to use 3 dimensions onward. So of course here there are 3 non-orthogonal vectors c1, c2, c3 such that c1 is perpendicular to the summation of c2 and c3, and c2 is perpendicular to c3, but c1 is not perpendicular to c2 and c1 is not perpendicular to c3. And of course vector x is decomposed in 3 components such that c1 plus c2 plus c3, and so this is the visualization how the Pythagoras theorem or Parseval theorems can work for 3-dimensional vectors and how we can visualize it. So c2 and c3, these are 2 vectors, x and y dimension, and these are perpendicular to each other, and summation of c2 and c3 is this vector, and of course this is the c1 vector which is not perpendicular to c2, not perpendicular to c3. However, it is perpendicular to the summation of c2 and c3, and this is the original vector x which is decomposed in terms of this c1 plus c2 plus c3, and that is how we can visualize even though the vectors are not orthogonal to each other, still we can have the Pythagoras theorem or Parseval's theorems where energy is preserved. And of course, then we can easily generalize it for the multi-dimensional vectors. Now let us define few things in terms of the Fourier decomposition method. So Fourier decomposition method was proposed in 2017 by IIT Delhi, and any signal is decomposed in terms of the Fourier intrinsic band functions. And Fourier intrinsic band function, ith Fourier intrinsic band function xit belongs to C infinity. That means it is infinite times differentiable in the time support of AB, and of course they are zero mean function, they are orthogonal, and they are going to provide analytic FIBFs, Fourier intrinsic band functions, with instantaneous frequency and instantaneous amplitude always greater than 0. That means with the help of this analytic representation, instantaneous amplitude and differentiation of the instantaneous phase, which is defined as instantaneous frequency, which is always greater than 0. So how to obtain these kind of representations? So we have already seen the Fourier series representation, and for a real signal, Fourier coefficients for positive value of k and Fourier coefficients for negative value of k are complex conjugate of each other. By using this property, Fourier series representation, with the help of Fourier series representation, we can obtain this analytic signal representation, where real part of this analytic signal is the original signal and imaginary part is the Hilbert transform of the real part. And now just we have to collapse these infinite components, infinite number of components, and this is what Fourier decomposition method is doing. So this is the mapping of infinite components, k equal to 1 to infinite, into the some finite number of components. So of course, these infinite number of components are mapped to the m number of components when m is generally 5 or 10, depending upon the type of the application and the requirements. And of course, Zt is just one period of the Z till t, where Z till t is the periodic signal, and the relationship between Zt and Z till t is given by this expression. So of course, Zt is just one period of the periodic signal Z till t, and it is 0 outside of the time support 0 to t or one period. Now, so these are the same thing in the discrete time domain. So I'm going to skip all these things. Now let us see what is the actual meaning of Fourier decomposition method and how it is working in terms of the block diagram. So of course, practically we are always having the discrete signal, even though we can capture the continuous time signal, and with the help of analog to digital conversion, we get the discrete signal, and with the help of discrete signal, we can take the discrete Fourier transform, and we can have M filter bank, H1, H2, Hm, and this DFT signal is being passed through all these filter banks, and then we can take the inverse discrete Fourier transform and can obtain M components, where these M components are the decomposition of the original signal Xn, such that summation of all these components is Xn, and they are orthogonal, hence they preserve the energy as well. And the value of M can be selected depending upon the type of the requirement. Maybe 5, maybe 10, 15, depending upon the requirements. Same thing can be obtained with the help of discrete cosine transform. And discrete cosine transform is especially famous in the image compressions, because this is going, this discrete cosine transform generally gives the optimal decorrelation for a given signal, and hence we can achieve the good compression, especially in the image signals. So if there is a signal Xn, and if we want to use the Fourier decomposition method to decompose the signal Xn, so Xn can be ECG signal, EEG signal, or any other biomedical signal. So we can take the DCT of that, and these are the filter banks. So same signal is being filtered in the discrete cosine domain, frequency domain, and then with the help of inverse DCT we can obtain the M components, and such that summation of all these is the original signal and they are orthogonal as well. Now this is the same thing written in terms of the algorithms. Now let us have some comparison among Fourier, wavelet, EMD, Hilbert, and Fourier decomposition method. This was proposed by the NASA and this is proposed by the IIT Delhi. So in terms of the basis, frequency in the case of Fourier, it is a global phenomena and it is being obtained by the integration, convolution. In the case of wavelet, it is a convolution, and a regional, it is a local phenomena. However, in the case of EMD Hilbert, frequency is obtained by differentiation of the phase, so it is a local because of the differentiation. Similarly, in the case of FDM, frequency is obtained by differentiation of the phase, so it is a local. Uncertainty principle, of course, there is an uncertainty principle in the Fourier theory, uncertainty principle in the wavelet theory, but there is no uncertainty in the EMD Hilbert, and there is no uncertainty in the Fourier decomposition method because frequency is being obtained by differentiation of the phase. Presentation, Fourier series is represented by frequency and energy, wavelet frequency, time and energy, time frequency representation. EMD Hilbert also provide the time frequency time energy representation, and similarly we obtain the frequency time energy representation in the FDM. Non-linearity, of course, Fourier theory is not able to deal with the non-linearity of the systems. Similarly, wavelet cannot deal or detect the non-linearity of the systems. However, EMD and Hilbert, they are able to deal with the non-linearity of the system, and similarly FDM is able to deal with the non-linearity of the system. Non-stationarity, no. S, and S. Harmonics, of course, Fourier theory is a harmonic analysis, and harmonics are present here. In the case of wavelets, we are also having the harmonics, but in the case of EMD Hilbert, there are no harmonics. In the case of Fourier decomposition method, as it is based on the Fourier theory, there are harmonics, but they are mapped to no harmonics. Theoretical base, in the case of Fourier, it is complete. In the case of wavelet, it is also complete. They are mathematically well defined. However, in the case of EMD, it is empirical in the nature, and empirical means it is based on the experience and experiment, and there is no complete mathematical validity. However, in the case of the wavelet, it is complete and it is completely defined by the Fourier theory. So how we can use the machine learning and deep learning for the Fourier for the biomedical signal analysis, processing, and classification using the Fourier decomposition method. So suppose we have the ECG or EEG signal, and a signal has been acquired here, signal acquisition system. So with the help of Fourier decomposition method, we can decompose these signals into the set of Fourier integer band functions, and we can remove or discard the FIBS corresponding to the noise component. For example, in the case of ECG signal, we can remove the FIBF corresponding to baseline wonder and power line interference, and then from here onward we can have two kind of network. This is the deep learning network, for example LSTM, and this is the machine learning network where we have to extract the features from the remaining FIBFs, then feature selections, and finally machine learning based classification we can obtain. So this is the machine learning path and this is the deep learning path. In case of the deep learning path, these two blocks are not there. Features are extracted directly from the data itself, and then signals are being classified. Now let us see some applications of the Fourier decomposition method which have been used in the literature. It has been used for the analysis and classification of ECG signal, EEG signal, which are the heart and brain signals, speech analysis, seismic or earthquake data analysis, image analysis, COVID-19 pandemic modeling and predictions, time frequency analysis of non-linear and non-stationary time series, and other data analysis. So it has been applied in many applications. Now let us see few examples. How much time is left?
So 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to wind up all everything in 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, sure, sir.
So this is the oh, thank you, man. Thank you. So signal XT and high frequency components are riding in the signal XT in these points. And when we are going to use the Fourier decomposition method, we can easily separate these high frequency components and obtain the clean signal. However, when we are trying same thing with the help of EMD, EMD is going to fail and it is not able to separate out. However, ensemble EMD is able to separate out the clean signal and high frequency components. However, ensemble EMD is computationally very complex. And the difference between EMD and ensemble EMD is something like that. We are going to add the noise to the signal so that we can create the local maxima and local minima in the signal, because the EMD is going to work on the local maxima and local minima of the signal and then interpolates, then taking the average of the upper envelope and lower envelope and keep on shifting the things to decompose the signal. Now this is the one ECG signal where this is the clean ECG signal and this is the baseline wonder, low frequency components, and this is the power line interference. When we are going to add these three signals, we are obtaining this one. D part is the summation of A plus B plus C. Now ECG signal is corrupted with baseline wonder and power line interference. Now this is the given signal. So if this is the given signal, can we clean out and obtain the original signal and separate out the baseline wonder and power line interference? So this is the input to the Fourier decomposition method. And what we are obtaining it here, it is the clean signal which is very similar to this one, original signal. And this is the baseline wonder and this is the power line interference. And this is the difference between the original signal and the signal obtained from the Fourier decomposition method, which is almost similar. So this is the one application of the Fourier decomposition method for denoising. That means removing the baseline wonder and power line interference in ECG recordings. This is the one example where we are having the chirp signal. As the time is increasing, frequency is increasing, and this is the frequency modulated signal. Frequency is increasing and decreasing with the time, and these signals have been obtained with the help of Fourier decomposition method. And in Fourier decomposition method, there are two kind of representation: low to high frequency scan and high to low frequency scan. So this figure has been obtained by low to high frequency scan, and this figure has been obtained by the Fourier decomposition method using high to low frequency scan. So of course this is very neat and clean signal, and here we can clearly identify that the original signal is having the chirp signal and FM signal. However, in this we can see that there is a lot of energy leakage in the high frequency component, and same signal has been used to given to the EMD, and this is the time frequency energy plot obtained by the EMD, and of course there is a lot of energy leakage across the various frequency components in the case of EMD, and clearly FDM is performing much better than the EMD. So this is the delta function, and this is the Hilbert transform of that delta function, delta sequence, and position of this delta function n not equal to 199. So of course this is delta n, Hilbert transform of that, and this is the envelope of the delta function. And when we are going to obtain the time frequency energy representation of that delta function, so it is concentrated in time as well as it is concentrated in energy. That's why there is no uncertainty principle. And in this representation, that means in AM/FM representation, delta function can be concentrated in the time and concentrated in the frequency. However, when we are obtaining the time frequency energy plot using the ensemble empirical mode decomposition, there is a lot of energy leakage. And the same thing has been obtained by the continuous wavelet transform. And with the help of this figure, we can see that these are the high frequency and this is the low frequency, and in the x-axis time is increasing. So at high frequency there is a good time resolution, but there is a poor frequency resolution. In low frequency there is a good frequency resolution, but there is a poor time resolution. And this is what the problem in the continuous wavelet transform is. Whereas we have seen that in the case of the Fourier decomposition method, there is a good time resolution as well as there is a good frequency resolution. And this is the gravitational wave. It is one of the most, I think, famous and important event which happened in 2050 and 9th September. And this is the numerical relativity waveform of the H1 strain captured at the LIGO Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, Hanford. And the scientists who were involved capturing this first gravitational wave got the Nobel Prize as well. So when we are having this kind of gravitational wave signals, we can obtain the time frequency analysis and see how the signal is changing over the time. So as we can see that as the time is increasing, amplitude is increasing and frequency is also increasing. And this is very clear from the time frequency plot, time frequency and energy plot. As the time is increasing, energy is increasing and frequency is also increasing, and this representation has been obtained by the Fourier decomposition method. Same thing have been obtained by the continuous wavelet transform, and here we can see that because of the uncertainty principle, time resolution and frequency resolution is not as good as in the case of the FDM. And this is again the ECG signal, and this is the ECG signal corrupted with the baseline wonder and power line interference. And this is the clean ECG signal obtained from the FDM, and this is the power line interference, and this is the baseline wonder. So we can clearly see that FDM is able to do all these things. So this is with the help of EMD, and this is with the help of FDM. So here we can see that there is a high frequency is riding on the low frequency component. So this is not as clean as we wanted to do. And here few low frequency components are riding here. Whereas in the case of the FDM, we can clearly see that this is better than the FDM. So baseline wonder and power line interference removal using the FDM, which is based on the FIR filtering, finite impulse response filtering approach. This is the same thing using the DFT based FDM, and this is the FIR based FDM, and this is the one comparison between output SNR and input SNR. So here as input SNR is increasing, initially output SNR is increasing in the case of EMD, but after some times, after 5 dB, it is almost getting saturated. However, in the case of FDM, and FDM is implemented using FIR, DFT, DCT, because FDM is a idea which is using the zero phase filtering. It may be FIR, it may be IIR, it may be DCT, it may be DFT, or any other approach. So here we can see that FDM with DFT, discrete Fourier transform, is achieving the best result as compared to FDM with FIR and EMD. And this is the speech signal, and this is the Fourier transform of that. And these are the corresponding, this is the differentiation of this signal, and this is the Fourier transform of this. So when we are applying the Fourier decomposition method on this speech signal to estimate the fundamental frequency estimation, so here we can see that this is the fundamental frequency estimated by the FDM, and clearly we have decomposed in the various FIBFs, and their time frequency representation is having very good time resolution as well as frequency resolution in the time frequency plot. And all these things have been done by the Fourier decomposition method based on the DCT, discrete cosine transform. So I think I'm done. So like set of orthogonal vectors, a set of linear vectors preserve energy, and contrary to the general perception in the literature, FDM can be used for the nonlinear and non-stationary data analysis. And of course, FDM has been demonstrated its usefulness for many applications such as ECG, EEG, speech, gravitational wave, earthquake, image analysis, COVID-19 modeling and predictions. these are the few references, and I'm going to share this representation so that if anyone is interested can go. Thank you for your kind attention. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir, for the nice session. It was really very much informative. I would request to all the participants kindly ask your queries.
And mail me, then I will be happy to answer those questions.
I think, sir, there are no more queries. Thank you
Okay,
so much, sir, for
Thank
the
you, ma'am.
session. Thank you, sir. Thank you, dear participants.
Thank you, everyone. Please switch on your camera for a group photograph. Okay, now one query is there, sir. How
Yes,
effective in this method in recent trends?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
So
What is
question
it?
is, question is how effective in this method in recent trends?
So I think this is very recent method which has been proposed in 2017 around, and this is very new. So there are many researchers across the worldwide who are working in various applications, and of course it has been applied in many fields like COVID-19 modeling and predictions, gravitational wave analysis, speech signal analysis, biomedical signal analysis. So there are various applications. And this is a good competitor of the empirical mode decomposition, variational mode decomposition, and which have got a lot of citations, like more than 20,000 citations are there for the empirical mode decomposition. So over the period of decades, we are expecting the same thing with the Fourier decomposition method.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Any more queries from any participant side? Kindly turn on your cameras.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you.